Good afternoon, beautiful people of planet Earth. Welcome to Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. It's the 9th of January 2025 and it's 1:18 p.m. I saw 11:11 a.m. and I saw 1:11 p.m. and I'm astonishingly tired because I worked for 2 days. Put in the effort. 2 days ago, I cleaned your cage and scrubbed all your floor. Her plastic sheeting I put on the floor and pulled everything apart, put everything back together. And that was a very, very hot day that day. It was a lot of effort. Yes, beautiful girl. And then yesterday, I cleaned my kitchen windows, which were filthy. And then polished my copper pots and cleaned all the, I call them window fascinators, all the bead curtains that I made and hang off the window in the kitchen. That was a big task. So today I'm astonishingly knackered. And I worked for 5 hours yesterday doing the kitchen. It's only half done, got to do the other. All the hutch dresses and pulling all the dusty things down. I can't face it, people. So instead I'm going to read you fairy stories. I'm going to procrastinate and obfuscate my role as a domestic goddess. But I must admit, I'm very thrilled about having clean windows again. I need to do the windows in here too. They're rather grimy. But I'm getting there. Slowly. Yes, Charlie. And writing my cleaning lady that comes to do the floors in the bathroom. She's been and gone. And there's a big storm hovering around. It's kind of raining now and it's all grey. It was a beautiful morning this morning, but it's gone all grey and kind of rancid. And then I was lying on the couch, sort of snoozing, and I thought, oh, what shall I do with myself? I'll read a story. I'm too tired to do any cleaning today. I'm absolutely all exhausted. Just responding, I just got a message about the mower man and when he's coming next. So sorry to interrupt you in the middle of my video. I have to fine tune them with the right, done. If I'd seen that before I started the video, I would have delayed. But anyway, it was just at the ground running, babies, trying to multitask. Anyway, where were we? I can't remember where we were. I forgot where we were at. So it doesn't matter now. We're moving on into the future, sanguine, proud, and functioning. Sort of. I should actually go back to bed. That's how bad I feel. I only had about 5 hours sleep last night and 4.4 events an hour, which isn't too bad, but I don't know. I don't feel well today. It was probably too much work for me doing 2 days in a row. This is how I am. I can be riding high 1 minute and fall in a heap the next. It's why I'm still single, people. People can't rely on me to be fully functioning all the goddamn time. And it's a tragedy. It's actually a fucking tragedy, but I mustn't think about that. I'm being nurtured and supported by my beautiful friends who check in with me daily. And to you, my darlings. So I'm grateful for that. One in particular is really checking in, which is very kind. So, had my debrief with my psychiatrist yesterday, and that was interesting. He's a lovely man. But there's just strange shifts going on in everyone's. I don't even know how to describe it, neurological shifts, which I'm finding a bit alarming, to be honest. Actually, not a bit, quite a bit alarming. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. The love energy is powerful. I'm having people look at me as if I'm some kind of leader or goddess or queen, or I don't even know how to describe it. And it's wonderful, but it's also a bit alarming because I'm not used to that. I'm not used to having people look at me with such deep, deep, intense love and affection. So thank you to those of you who are doing that. It's very kind. But it's also, on some level, freaking me out because I've never had that before in my entire life. Have we, Charlie? No, we have not, Mama T. We've been struggling on our own for a long time. Let's see what this right. No. Come on, go sit on Mama's shoulder. Just sit still. Sit still while Mama tells the stories. So Scheherazade is still trying to delay having her head cut off by her king, who had decided that he was going to cut every bride's head off and thereby not get attached to any woman, thereby never get his heart broken. It's quite a horrific way to go about things, isn't it? So to save what's left of, women in their city, Scheherazade has married him, made herself a sacrifice, and is delaying having her head cut off by telling him 1001 Arabian Nights stories. Delayed gratification. So, well, delaying her having her head cut off, literally. So there we are. That's where we're at, babies. We're about just over halfway through the book now. So, pardon me, I thought about taking a little break and going back to reading my other short stories, but I kind of also want to forge ahead and finish off this book. Curiosity. I'd like to know how it ends, and they're quite delightful stories. Anyway, here we have today the adventures of Harun, Al-Rashid. 'Tis a bitter thing to stand in awe of coming doom, quoth Dunyazad to Scheherazade the evening next. Dunyazad is her sister who's accompanying her on this journey through time and space as she tells her stories to the king. Oh, dear my sister, quoth Scheherazade, my tales are tokens of life prolonged. And she began her next tale. We all like to prolong our lives, don't we? I'm prolonging it with CPAP machine, and it's fucking knocking me around some days. I'm not ungrateful, but it's a struggle some days. I don't know why some days are worse than others. Perhaps it's spiritual, perhaps it's just my body wanting to just rest without any accoutrements attached to its face. I even woke up with a sore ear right here, quite sore. Don't know what that's about. Anyway, life goes on, and I'm enjoying it. My little girl looking at me with such love too. Have you got neurological changes too, Charlie? No, you've always been a smoocher, haven't you? You've always been a smoochy birdie. You're a smoochy birdie. When she's in the mood, she's very smoochy. It's delightful. I take delight in all the ones that love me so much. Yes. Yes, we do. We take delight in them, and we miss them every day. We do. But we don't want to be codependent or needy or a pain in anyone's ass. So we just carry on reading stories. And kisses. Oh, get a nice kiss. Alright, let us continue, babies. The Caliph, Harun Al-Rashid, was one night wakeful exceedingly, and when he rose in the morning, restlessness got hold of him. Happens when you wakeful exceedingly in the night and get held into bouts of hypomania because you're actually fucking sleep deprived and you overworked yourself. Oh, so it's nice to see I'm not the only one that reacts that way. Even a caliph reacts that way. Right, I just want to see what's happening with him. So I don't want him chewing my earrings. Yes, I made these. Ebony and beads inlaid with parlour shell. Keep the evil eye at bay. Alright, my babies, ready to go. Here we go. Wherefore all about him were troubled for that folk I follow prince's fashion. It's folk A-Y-E as in yes. I, Scottish, yes. Follow prince's fashion. I have no idea what that expression is supposed to mean. Must be some Victorian English expression. Folk I follow prince's fashion. They rejoice exceedingly with his joy, and are sorrowful with his sorrows, albeit they know not the cause why they are so affected. Well, because in those days they were willing to lop off your head if you didn't get along with them. By the grace of all the gods. Presently the commander of the faithful sent for Masrur, the eunuch, and when he came to him cried, "Fetch me my wazir, Jafar the Barmaki, without stay or delay." Accordingly, he went out and returned with the minister, who, finding him alone, which was indeed rare, and seeing as he drew near that he was in a melancholic humour, never even raising his eyes, stopped till his lord would vouchsafe to look upon him. At last the prince of true believers cast his glance upon Jafar, but forthright turned away his head and sat motionless as before. The wazir, descrying naught in the caliph's aspect that concerned him personally, strengthened his purpose and bespake him on this wise: "O commander of the faithful, wilt thine highness deign suffer me to ask whence cometh this sadness?" And the caliph answered with a clearer brow, "Verily, O wazir, these moods have of late become troublesome to me, nor are they to be moved save by hearing strange tales and verses. And if thou come not hither on a pressing affair, thou wilt gladden me by relating somewhat to dispel my sadness." Replied the wazir, "O commander of the faithful, my office compelleth me to stand on thy service, and I would have to laugh at this bird sometimes. And I would fain remind thee that this is the day appointed for informing thyself of the good governance of thy capital and its environs, and this matter shall, inshallah, divert thy mind and dispel its gloom, Charlie. Yes, dispelling gloom, Charlie. I was going to go to the sea today and was going to visit Lynn today, and I just was too tired. I can't be driving around the city in the state that I'm in today. It's only a 25-minute drive to Lynn's, but I'm just exhausted. And yet I'm reading stories on YouTube, go figure. Anyway. The Caliph answered, I know, I'm an anomaly. The Caliph answered, thou dost well to remind me. Goodness, what is all this nonsense? Pop-ups. Thou dost well to remind me, for that I had wholly forgotten it. So fare forth and change thy vestments, while I do the same with mine. Presently the twain donned habits of stranger merchants, and issued out by a private postern of the palace garden, which led them into the fields. After they had skirted the city, they reached the Euphrates bank at some distance from the gate opening on that side, without having observed aught of disorder. Then they crossed the river on the first ferry boat they found, and, making a second round on the further side, they passed over the bridge that joined the two halves of Baghdad town. At the bridge foot they met with a blind old man who asked alms of them, and the Caliph turned about and crossed. Here comes the rain. Told you it was going to rain, didn't I, Charlie? And the Caliph turned about and crossed his palm with a dinar, whereupon the beggar caught hold of his hand and held him fast, saying, O beneficent man, whoso thou ever may be, whom Allah hath inspired to bestow an alms upon me, refuse not the favour I crave of thee, which is to strike me a buffet upon the ear, for that I deserve such punishment, and a greater still. Strange synchronicity, which since I woke up with pain just here at this point. Oh, it's odd. It's all a bit odd. Anyway, there we go. Synchronicity is about to be belted on his ear too. Wow. After these words, he quitted his hold of the Caliph's hand that it might smite him. Yet for fear lest the stranger pass on without so doing, he grasped him fast by his long robe. Why would you want someone to smack you in your own ear? It's odd, isn't it? Anyway, you get perverts like that. Sadomasochists. I had love affairs with some of them. Oh, revolting people. Anyway, it's sad, but it's true. I mean, you kind of have to laugh. The Caliph, surprised by the blind man's words and deeds, said, I may not grant thy request, nor will I diminish the merit of my charity by treating thee as thou wouldst have me treat thee. Yes, my darling. Saying these words, he strove to get away from the blind man, but he who after his long experience expected this refusal of his benefactor did his utmost to keep hold of him, and cried, O my Lord, forgive my audacity and my persistency, and I implore thee either give me a cuff on the ear, or take back thine alms, for I may not receive it, save on that condition, without falsing a solemn oath I have sworn before the face of Allah. Thought, well, the Jewish God, you're not allowed to see his face. Not so sure about Allah. One would think they're one and the same energy, just different names, am I right? But, well, anyway, that just kind of threw me for a bit. How do you get to see the face of Allah when you don't get to see the face of Yahweh? Anyway, let's not think about that. I'll go into a whole, theological debate and will get depressed and crawl into bed. And it doesn't matter at the end of the day. The face of Allah is my birdie, plucking out her remaining feathers. Stop it. Stop that. Stop your self-mutilation. And if thou knew the reason, thou wouldst accord with me that the penalty is light indeed. Must you bite his mummy when you do that? Is that really necessary? Ah! What are you trying to prove, you little brat? Then the Caliph, not caring to be delayed any longer, yielded to the blind man's importunity and gave him a slight cuff, whereupon he loosed him forthright and thanked him and blessed him. What do you think of that, Charlie? She says, no accounting for weirdos, Mama. It's true, no accounting for the weirdos. Trying to work out what that big thing is behind him. The Caliph Harun Al-Rashid. I think there actually was in real life a Caliph Harun Al-Rashid too, because I remember reading it in another book that I was reading, which gave a rather in-depth history of Islam through the centuries. It was very interesting. I forget what it was called, but it's where I got the idea to read this, because it referenced it a few times. What was the name of that book? Do you think I can remember? It's written by Richard Feidler. Oh, I have to go and look for it. It's going to drive me mad until I know. One moment, people. There we go. Here we go, my babies. I must have lent it to someone or given it back to someone. I think, if I remember correctly, Lynn brought it for me to read, and then I said I'd give it to her when I finished reading it. So that's probably where it is in. Can't think of the title now. But it was very well written, very, very pleasurable read. Learnt a lot actually. I don't remember half of it, but I remember that there was an actual caliph called Harun al-Rashid. It's not just a fairy story here. Right. When the caliph and his wazir had walked some way from the blind man, the former exclaimed, "This blind beggar must assuredly have some right good cause for behaving himself in such manner to all who give him alms, and I would fain know it. Do thou return to him and tell him who I am, and bid him fail not to appear at my palace about mid-afternoon prayer time, that I may converse with him and hear whatso he hath to say." Yes, my darling. Hereupon Jafar went back and bestowed alms on the blind man, giving him another cuff on the ear, and apprised him of the Caliph's command, and returned forthright to his lord. Presently, when the twain reached the town, they found in the square a vast crowd of folk gazing at a handsome youth and a well-shaped who was mounted on a mare, which he rode at full speed round the open space, spurring and whipping the beast so cruelly that she was covered with sweat and blood. I hate monsters like that. Seeing this, the Caliph, amazed at the youth's brutality, stopped to ask the bystanders, and they knew why he tortured and tormented the mare on such wise. But he could learn naught save that for some while past, every day at the same time, he had entreated her after the same fashion. Hereat, as they walked along, the Caliph bid his wazir especially notice the place, and order the young man to come without failing on the next day, at the hour appointed for the blind man. But ere the Caliph reached his palace, he saw in a street, which he had not passed through for many months, a newly built mansion, which seemed to him the palace of some great lord of the land. He asked the wazir, and he knew its owner, and Jafar answered he did not, but would make inquiry. So he consulted a neighbour, who told him that the house owner was one Khwaja Hassan, surnamed Al-Habal, from his handicraft, rope making, that he himself had seen the man at work in the days of his poverty, that he knew not how fate and fortune had befriended him, yet that the same Khwaja had gotten such exceeding wealth that he had been enabled to pay honourably and sumptuously all the expenses he had incurred when building his palace. Then the wazir returned to the Caliph and gave him a full account of whatso he had heard, whereat cried the Prince of True Believers, I must see this Khwaja Hassan Al-Habal. Do thou, therefore, O Wazir, go and tell him to come to my palace at the same hour thou hast appointed for the other twain. The minister did his lord's bidding, and the next day, after mid-afternoon prayers, the Caliph retired to his own apartment. Hello, Charlie. And Jafar introduced the three persons whereof we have been speaking and presented them to the Caliph. All prostrated themselves at his feet, and when they rose up, the commander of the faithful asked his name of the blind man, who answered he was Hayt Baba Abdullah. Oh, servant of Allah, cried the Caliph. Excuse me. Thy manner of asking alms yesterday seemed so strange to me that, had it not been for certain considerations, I should not have granted thy petition. Nay, I would have prevented thy giving further offence to the folk. And now I have bidden thee hither, that I may know from thyself what impelled thee to swear that rash oath. Well, there's always a rash oath in somebody's life, but no, wrong oath. To swear that rash oath, whereof thou toldest me, that I may better judge whether thou have done well or ill, and if I should suffer thee, I've got thunder asthma. I don't know what's going on, but that's what it is. It's thunder asthma. It's just singing me out of nowhere. Amazing, isn't it? It's amazing. That I may better judge whether thou have done well or ill, and if I should suffer thee to persist in a practice which meseemeth must set so pernicious an example. Tell me openly how such mad thought entered into thy head, and conceal not aught, for I will know the truth, and the full truth. Man after my heart. I'm very fond of the truth too. Can't stand liars and time wasters. Grinds my gears. Where am I now with my earring? Yeah. I don't know why, but it keeps moving around. I might have to glue them down. What do you reckon? That's better. Yes, much better. Alright, let us remove from the vanity, all is vanity, people of earth. Ultimately, it means nothing at the end of the day. The older you get, the more fragile you get, the more you really realise nothing ever really matters. In the broad scheme of things, even the liars. But anyway, happy thoughts. Sun's come out again. Patches of blue up there in the heavens. Oh, yay. Baba Abdullah, terrified by these words, cast himself a second time at the Caliph's feet with his face thrown to the ground, and when he rose again said, O Commander of the Faithful, I crave pardon of thy Highness for my audacity and that I dared require, and well nigh compelled thee to do a thing which, verily, seemeth contrary to sound sense. I acknowledge mine offence, but, as I knew not thy Highness at that time, I implore thy clemency, and I pray thou wilt consider my ignorance of thine exalted degree. And now, as to the extravagance of my action, I readily admit that it must be strange to the sons of Adam, but in the eye of Allah 'tis but a slight penance wherewith I have charged myself for an enormous crime of which I am guilty, and wherefore, and all the people in the world were each and every to give me a cuff on the ear, 'twould not be sufficient atonement. Thy Highness shall judge of it thyself, when I, in telling my tale according to thy commandment, will inform thee of what was my offence. And here he began to relate the story of the blind man, Baba Abdullah. O my lord, the Caliph, I, the humblest of thy slaves, was born in Baghdad, where my father and mother, presently dying within a few days of each other, left me a fortune large enough to last me throughout my lifetime. But I knew not its value, and soon I had squandered it in luxury and loose living, and I cared naught for thrift or for increasing my store. But when little was left to me of my substance, I repented of my evil courses, and toiled and laboured hard by day and night to increase my remaining stock of money. It is truly said, after waste cometh knowledge of worth. Indeed, especially when it's been robbed from you from no fault of your own. Wow. Nothing really matters, babies. On we go and on we go. Thus, little by little, I got together 80, that means 80, camels, which I let on hire to merchants, and thus I made goodly gain each time I found occasion. Moreover, I was wont to engage myself together with my beasts, and on this wise I journeyed over all the dominions and domains of thy highness. Brief, I hoped ere long to reap an abundant crop of gold by the hiring out of my baggage animals. Once I had carried merchants' stuffs to Bassorah for shipping Indiawards, and I was returning to Baghdad with my beasts unladen. Now, as I fared homewards, I chanced to pass across a plain of excellent pasturage, lying fallow and far from any village, and there saddled the camels, which I hobbled and tethered together, that they might crop the luxuriant herbs and thorns, and yet not fare astray. Presently appeared a darwesh, who was travelling afoot for Bassorah, and he took seat beside me to enjoy ease after unease, whereat I asked him whence he wayfared and whither he was wending. He also asked me the same question, and when we had told each to other our own tales, we produced our provisions and brake our fast together, talking of various matters as we ate. Quoth the darwesh, I know a spot hard by, which enholdeth the hoard, and its wealth is so wonder great, that shouldst thou load upon thy 80 camels the heaviest burthens of gold coins and costly gems, from that treasure there will appear no minishing thereof. Hearing these words, I rejoiced with exceeding joy, and gathering from his mien and demeanour that he did not deceive me, I arose forthright, and falling upon his neck exclaimed, O hallow of Allah, who cares naught for this world's goods, and hast renounced all mundane lusts and luxuries, assuredly thou hast full knowledge of this treasure, for naught remaineth hidden from holy men as thou art. I pray thee tell me where it may be found, that I may load my 80 beasts with bales of ashrafis and jewels. I wot full well that thou hast no greed for the wealth of this world, but take, I pray thee, one of these, my 80 camels, as recompense and favour for the reward. Thus spoke I with my tongue, but in my heart I sorely grieved to think I must part with a single camel load of coins and gems. Withal I reflected that the other 19 camel loads would contain riches to my heart's content. Accordingly, as I wavered in mind, at one moment consenting, and in the next instant repenting, the darwesh, noting my greed and covetise and avarice, replied, Not so, O my brother. One camel doth not suffice me, that I should shew thee all this hoard. On a single condition only will I tell thee of the place, to wit, that we twain lead the animals thither, and lade them with the treasure. Then shalt thou give me 1/2 thereof, and take the other half to thyself. With 40 camels' load of costly ores and minerals for sure, thou canst buy thousands more of camels. Then, seeing that refusal was impossible, I cried, So be it, I agree to thy proposal, and I will do as thou desires. For in my heart I had conned the matter over, and well I wist that 40 camel loads of gold and gems would suffice me and many generations of my descendants. And I feared lest, an I gainsay him, I should repent for ever and ever, having let so great a treasure slip out of hand. Accordingly, giving full consent to all be said, I got together every one of my beasts and set me a wayfaring along with the fakir. After travelling over some short distance, we came upon a gorge between two craggy mountain walls, towering high in crescent form, and the pass was exceedingly narrow, so that the animals were forced to pace in single file. But further on it flared out, and we could thread it without difficulty into the broad wadi below. No human being was anywhere to be seen or heard in this wild land, so we were undisturbed and easy in our minds, nor feared aught. I did as the Darwish had bidden me, and naching all the camels, I followed in wake of him. Naching, N-A-K-H-I-N-G. I presume that means tying them all together somehow. I'm guessing. Shall we ask Wikipedia? Coming up with everything but. Let me go back and say meaning. No, not managing. Did I spell it wrong? Well, anyway, I'm presuming it means that they're all cobbled together, the animals, so they can't run amok or get lost. Just make an assumption there. I followed in wake of him. After walking a short way from the halting place, he produced a flint and steel and struck fire therewith and lit some sticks he had gotten together. Then, throwing a handful of strong-smelling incense upon the flames, he muttered words of incantation, which I could by no means understand. At once a cloud of smoke arose, and, spiring upwards, veiled the mountains, and presently, the vapour clearing away, we saw a huge rock with pathway leading to its perpendicular face. Here the precipice showed an open door, wherethrough appeared in the boughs of the mountain a splendid palace, the workmanship of the genes, for no man had power to build aught like it. In due time, after sore toil, we entered therein, and found an endless treasure, ranged in mounds with the utmost ordinance and regularity. Seeing a heap of ashrafis, I pounced upon it as a vulture swoopeth upon her quarry, the carrion, and fell to filling the sacks with golden coin, to my heart's content. The bags were big, but I was constrained to stuff them only in proportion to the strength of my beasts. The Darwish, too, busied himself in like manner, but He charged his sacks with gems and jewels only, counselling me the while to do as he did. So I cast aside the ducats and filled my bags with naught save the most precious of the stonery. In the boughs of the mountain a splendid palace. When we had wrought our best, we set the well-stuffed sacks upon the camels' backs, and we made ready to depart. But before we left the treasure house, wherein stood ranged thousands of golden vessels, exquisite in shape and workmanship, the Darwish went into a hidden chamber, and brought from out a silvern casket a little golden box full of some unguent, which he showed to me, and then he placed it in his pocket. Presently he again threw incense upon the fire and recited his incantations and conjurations, whereat the door closed and the rock became as before. We then divided the camels, he taking one half and I the other, and, passing through the straight and gloomy gorge in single file, we came out upon the open plain. Here our way parted, he wending in the direction of Basora and I Baghdadwards, and when about to leave him, I showered thanks upon the Darwish who had obtained me all this wealth and riches worth 1,000 of gold coins, and farewelled him with deep emotions of gratitude, after which we embraced and wended our several ways. But hardly had I bidden adieu to the fakir, and had gone some little distance from him with my file of camels, than the shaitan tempted me with greed of gain, so that I said to myself, the Darwish is alone in the world, without friends or kinsmen, and is wholly estranged from matters mundane. What will these camel loads of filthy lucre advantage him? Moreover, engrossed by the care of the camels, not to speak of the deceitfulness of riches, he may neglect his prayer and worship. Therefore it behoveth me to take back from him some few of my beasts. With this resolve, I made the camels halt, and tying up their forelegs, ran back after the holy man and called out his name. He heard my loud shouts and awaited me forthright, and as soon as I approached him, I said, when I had quitted thee, a thought came into my mind, to wit, that thou art a recluse, who keepest thyself aloof from earthly things, pure in heart and busied only with orison and devotion. Now care of all these camels will cause thee only toil and moil and trouble and waste of precious time. 'Twere better then to give them back, and not run the risk of these discomforts and dangers. The chutzpah of it, the absolute chutzpah. The Darwish replied, O my son, thou speakest sooth, you speak the truth. The tending of all these animals will bring me naught save ache of head, so do thou take of them as many as thou listest. I thought not of the burthen and posher. Burthen and posher, dear goddess, till thou drewest my attention thereto, but now I am forewarned thereof. So may Almighty Allah keep thee in his holy keeping. Just one moment. My friend Belinda's back from Woodford Festival, so she and her husband are going to come and visit me, which is delightful. We've been friends for 5 years. I've been going to their drumming circle at West End for, what's 5.5 years now, isn't it? June, I think I started in July 2019. And so I finally said, come and visit me at some stage when you have time and invite them to my home. I've been to their home, numerous times. I need to open up. I need to open my horizons and bring people into my little hobbit hermitage. And so I'm looking forward to that. I think it'll be lovely. So there you go. I thought not of the burthen and posher till thou drewest my attention thereto, but now I am forewarned thereof. So may Almighty Allah keep thee in his holy keeping. Charlie. Accordingly, I took 10 camels of him, and was about to gang my gate, when suddenly it struck me. This fakir was unconcerned at giving up 10 camels, so 'twere better I ask more of him. Thereupon I drew nearer to him and said, Thou canst hardly manage 30 camels. Do give me, I pray thee, other 10. Said he, O my son, do whatso thou wishest. Take thee other 10 camels. 20 will suffice me. I did his bidding, and driving off the 20, added them to my 40. Pardon me. Then the spirit of concupiscence possessed me, and I bethought me more and more to get yet other 10 camels from his share. So I retraced my steps for the 3rd time, and asked him for another 10, and of these, as also the remaining 10, I wheedled him. The Darwish gladly gave up the last of his camels, and, shaking out his skirts, made ready to depart, but still my accursed greed stuck to me. Albeit I had got the 80 beasts laden with ashrafis and jewels, I might have gone home happy and content, with wealth for 80 generations. Satan tempted me still more, and urged me also to take the box of ointment, which I supposed to contain something more precious than rubies. So when I had... Charlie, where have you gone? Oh, there. Okay. So when I had again farewelled and embraced him, I paused a while and said, What wilt thou do with the little box of salve thou hast taken to thy portion? I pray thee give me that also. The fakir would by no means part with it, whereupon I lusted the more to possess it, and resolved in my mind that, should the holy man give it up of his free will, then well and good, but if not, I would force it from him. Evil, isn't it? I mean, the absolute greed. Seeing my intent, he drew the box from out of his breast pocket and handed it to me, saying, O my son, and thou wouldst have this box of ointment, then freely do I give it to thee. But first it behoveth thee to learn the virtue of the unguent it containeth. Hearing these words, I said, Forasmuch as thou hast shown me all this favour, I beseech thee tell me of this ointment, and what of properties it possesseth. Quoth he, The wonders of this ointment are passing strange and rare, and thou close thy left eye, and rub upon the lid the smallest bit of the salve, then all the treasures of the world now concealed from thy gaze will come to sight. But an thou rub aught thereof upon thy right eye, thou shalt straightway become stone blind of both. Thereat I bethought me of putting this wondrous unguent to the test, and placing it in his hand the box, I said, I see thou understandest this matter right well, so now I pray thee apply somewhat of the ointment with thine own hand to my left eyelid. The Darwesh thereupon closed my left eye, and with his finger rubbed a little of the unguent over the lid, and when I opened it and looked around, I saw the hidden hoards of the earth in countless quantities, even as the fakir had told me I should see them. Then closing my right eyelid, I bade him apply some of the salve to that eye also. Said he, O my son, I have forewarned thee that if I rub it upon thy right eyelid, thou shalt become stone blind of both. Put far from thee this foolish thought. Why shouldst thou bring this evil to no purpose on thyself? He spake sooth indeed, but by reason of my accursed ill fate, I would not heed his words, and considered in my mind, if applying the salve to the left eyelid hath produced such effect, assuredly far more wondrous still shall be the result when rubbed on the right eye. This fellow doth play me false, and keepeth back from me the truth of the matter. When I had thus determined in my mind, I laughed and said to the holy man, Thou art deceiving me to the intent that I should not advantage myself by the secret, for that rubbing the unguent upon the right eyelid hath some greater virtue than applying it to the left eye, and thou wouldst withhold the matter from me. It can never be that the same ointment hath qualities so contrary and virtues so diverse. Replied the other, Allah Almighty is my witness that the marvels of the ointment be none other save these whereof I bespake thee. O dear my friend, have faith in me, for naught hath been told thee save what is sober sooth. Still would I not believe his words, thinking that he dissembled with me, and kept secret from me the main virtue of the unguent. Wherefore, filled with this foolish thought, I pressed him sore, and begged that he rub the ointment upon my right eyelid. But he still refused, and said, Thou seest how much of favour I have shown to thee, Wherefore should I now do thee so dire an evil? Know for a surety that it would bring thee lifelong grief and misery. And I beseech thee, by Allah the Almighty, abandon this thy purpose, and believe my words. But the more he refused, so much the more did I persist, and in fine I made oath and swear by Allah, saying, O Darwish, Charlie, you've managed to poo on me again, Charlie girl, all over my lovely silk skirt. Ah, dear goddess, I looked pretty till you pro-hearted art pieced me. Anyway, where was I? And in fine I made, yes, my darling, oath and swear by Allah, saying, O Darwish, what things soever I have asked of thee, thou gayest freely unto me, and now remaineth only this request for me to make. Allah upon thee, gainsay me not, and grant me this last of thy boons. Yes, you are. And whatever shall betide me, I will not hold thee responsible therefor. Let destiny decide for good or for evil. When the holy man saw that his denial was of no avail, and that I irked him with exceeding persistence, he put the smallest bit of ointment on my right lid, and as I opened wide my eyes, lo and behold, both were stone blind. Naught could I see for the dark blackness before them, and ever since that day have I been sightless and helpless as thou foundest me. Here's a picture of him putting the unguent in his right eye, thereby making him blind. His own stupidity and greed and curiosity and what have you. I knew that I was blinded, I exclaimed. O Darwish of ill omen, what thou didst foretell hath come to pass. Duh! You kept warning him not to go there, guy friend. And I fell to cursing him, and saying, O would to heaven thou hadst never brought me to the hoard, or hadst given me such wealth. What now avail me all this gold and jewels? Take back thy 40 camels and make me whole again. Replied he, what evil have I done to thee? I showed thee favours more than any man had ever dealt to another. Thou wouldst not heed my rede, but didst harden thy heart and lustedst to obtain this wealth, and to pry into the hidden treasures of the earth. Thou wouldst not be content with what thou hadst, and thou didst misdoubt my words, thinking that I would play thee false. Thy case is beyond all hope, for nevermore wilt thou regain thy sight. No, never. Then said I with tears and lamentations, O Fakir, take back thy 80 camels laden with gold and precious stones, and wend thy way. I absolve thee from all blame. Natheless, I beseech thee by Allah Almighty, to restore my sight, and thou art able. He answered not a word, but leaving me in miserable plight, presently took the load to Bassorah, driving before him the 80 camels laden with wealth. I cried aloud and besought him to lead me with him away from the life-destroying wilderness, or to put me on the path of some caravan. But he regarded not my cries and abandoned me there. Getting very fidgety, Charlie. You're very frisky now. Yes, Bye-byes in Valhalla. So when the Darwish departed from me, I had well nigh died of grief and wrath at the loss of my sight and of my riches, and from the pangs of thirst and hunger. Next day, by good fortune, a caravan from Basora passed that way, and seeing me in such a grievous condition, the merchants had compassion on me, and made me travel with them to Baghdad. Naught could I do save beg my bread in order to keep myself alive. So I became a mendicant, and made this vow to Allah Almighty that, as a punishment for my unlucky greed and cursed covetise, I would require a cuff upon my ear from everyone who might take pity on my case and give an alms. On this wise it was that yesterday I pursued thee with such pertinacity. When the blind man made an end of his story, the Caliph said, O Baba Abdullah, thine offence was grievous. May Allah have mercy on thee therefore. It now remaineth to thee to tell thy case to devotees and anchorites, monks, that they may offer up their potent prayers in thy behalf. Take no thought for thy daily wants. I have determined that for thy living thou shalt have a dole of 4 dirhams a day from my royal treasury, according to thy need, as long as thou mayest live. But see that thou go no more to ask for alms about my city. So Baba Abdullah returned thanks to the Prince of True Believers, saying, I will do according to thy bidding. Now when the Caliph Harun Al-Rashid had heard the story of Baba Abdullah and the Darwish, he turned to and addressed the young man, whom he had seen riding at full speed upon the mare, and savagely lashing and ill-treating her. What is thy name? Quoth he, and quoth the youth, bowing his brow groundwards, My name, O Commander of the Faithful, is Sidi Nu'man. Then said the Caliph, Hearken now, O Sidi Nu'man. Ofttimes have I watched the horsemen exercise their horses, and I myself have often done likewise. But never saw I any who rode so mercilessly as thou didst ride thy mare, for thou didst ply both whip and shovel iron in cruellest fashion. The folk all stood to gaze with wonderment, but chiefly I, who was constrained against my wish to stop and ask the cause of the bystanders. None, however, could make clear the matter, and all men said that thou art wont each day to ride the mare in this most brutal fashion, whereat my mind marvelled all the more. I now would ask of thee the cause of this thy ruthless savagery, and see that thou tell me every whit, and leave not aught unsaid. Sidi Nu'man, hearing the order of the Commander of the Faithful, became aware he was fully bent upon hearing the whole matter, and would on no wise suffer him to depart until all was explained. So the colour of his countenance changed, and he stood speechless like a statue through fear and trepidation. Whereat said the Prince of True Believers, O Sidi Nu'man, fear naught, but tell me all thy tale. Regard me in the light of one of thy friends, and speak without reserve, and explain to me the matter fully, as thou wouldst do hadst thou been speaking to thy familiars. Moreover, an thou art afraid of any matter that thou shalt confide to me, and if thou dread my indignation, I grant thee immunity and a free pardon. At these comforting words of the Caliph, Sidi Nu'man took courage, and with clasped hands replied, I trust I have not in this manner done aught contrary to thy Highness's law and custom, and therefore will I willingly obey thy bidding, and relate to thee all my tale. If I have offended in anything, then am I worthy of thy punishment. 'Tis true that I have daily exercised the mare, and ridden her at speed around the hippodrome as thou sawest me do, and I lashed and gored her with all my might. Thou hadst compassion on the mare, and didst deem me cruel-hearted to entreat her thus. But when thou shalt have heard all my adventure, thou wilt admit, Inshallah, God willing, that this be only a trifling penalty for her offence, and that not she, but I, deserve thy pity and pardon. With thy permission, I will now begin my story. The Caliph Harun Al-Rashid accorded the youth permission to speak, and that the rider of the mare began in these words. Just need to know how much more we have to read. Approximately another hour. Right. The history of Sidi Nu'man. O Lord of beneficence and benevolence, my parents were possessed of wealth and riches sufficient to provide their son when they died with ample means for a lifelong livelihood, so that he might pass his days like a grandee of the land in ease and joyance and delight. I, their only child, had nor care nor trouble about any matter until one day of the days, when in the prime of manhood I was minded to take unto me a wife, a woman winsome and comely to look upon, that we might live together in mutual love and double blessedness. But Allah Almighty willed not that a model helpmate became thine. Nay, destiny wedded me to grief and the direst misery. I married a maid who in outward form and features was a model of beauty and loveliness without, however, one single gracious gift of mind or soul, and on the very second day after the wedding, her evil nature began to manifest itself. You know how that feels, babies. Thou art well aware, O Prince of True Believers, that by Muslim custom none may look upon the face of his betrothed before the marriage contract, nor after wedlock can he complain should his bride prove a shrew or a fright. He must needs dwell with her in such content as he may, and be thankful for his fate, be it fair or unfair. When I saw first the face of my bride and learnt that it was passing comely, I joyed with exceeding joy and gave thanks to Almighty Allah that He had bestowed on me so charming a mate. That night I slept with her in joy and love delight, but next day, when the noon meal was spread for me and her, I found her not at table, and sent to summon her. and after some delay she came and sat her down. I dissembled my annoyance, and forbore for this late coming to find fault with her, which I soon had ample reason to do. It so happened that amongst the many dishes which were served up to us was a fine pilaf, of which I, according to the custom in our city, began to eat with a spoon, but she, in lieu of it, picked out an ear-pick from her pocket, and therewith fell to picking up the rice, and ate it, grain by grain. Seeing this strange conduct, I was sore amazed, and fuming inwardly, said in sweet tones, O my Amina, what be this way of eating? Hast thou learnt it of thy people, or art thou counting grains of rice, purposing to make a hearty meal hereafter? Thou hast eaten but 10 or 20 during all this time, or, haply, thou art practising thrift. If so, I would have thee know that Allah Almighty hath given me abundant store, and fear not on that account. But do thou, O my dearling, as all do, and eat as thou seest thy husband eat. I fondly thought that she would assuredly vouchsafe some words of thanks, but never a syllable spake she, and ceased not picking up grain after grain, nay, more, in order to provoke me to greater displeasure. She paused for a long time between each. Now, when the next course of cakes came on, she idly brake some bread and tossed a crumb or two into her mouth. In fact, she ate less than would satisfy the stomach of a sparrow. I marvelled much to see her so obstinate and self-willed. But, I said to myself, in mine innocence, maybe she hath not been accustomed to eat with men, and especially she may be too shamefaced to eat heartily in presence of her husband. She will in time do what so do other folk. I thought also that, perchance, she hath already broken her fast and lost appetite, or, haply, it hath been her habit to eat alone. So I said nothing, and after dinner went out to smell the air and play the jarid, and thought no more of the matter. When, however, we two sat again at meat, my bride ate after the same fashion as before. Nay, she would ever persist in her perversity, whereat I was sore troubled in mind, and marvelled how without food she kept herself alive. One night it chanced that, deeming me fast asleep, she rose up in stealth from my side, I being wide awake, when I saw her step cautiously from the bed as one fearing lest she might disturb me. I wondered with exceeding wonder why she should arise from sleep to leave me thus, and methought I would look into the matter. Wherefore I still feigned sleep and snored, but watched her as I lay, and presently saw her dress herself and leave the room. I then sprang off the bed, and throwing on my robe and slinging my sword across my shoulder, I looked out of the window to spy whither she went. Presently she crossed the courtyard, and opening the street door fared forth, and I also ran out through the entrance, which she had left unlocked, then followed her by the light of the moon until she entered a cemetery hard by our home. When I beheld Amina, my bride, enter the cemetery, I stood without and close to the wall, over which I peered, so that I could espy her well, but she could not discover me. Then what did I behold but Amina sitting with a ghoul? Thy Highness wotteth well that ghouls be of the race of devils, to wit, they are unclean spirits which inhabit ruins and which terrify solitary wayfarers, and at times seizing them feed upon their flesh. And if by day they find not any traveller to eat, they go by night to the graveyards and dig out and devour dead bodies. So I was sore amazed and terrified to see my wife thus seated with a ghoul. There we have Amina with the ghoul. It's a rather unattractive looking creature, isn't he? Then the twain dug up from the grave a corpse which had been newly buried, and the ghoul and my wife tore off pieces of the flesh, which she ate, making merry the while, and chatting with her companion, but inasmuch as I stood at some distance, I could not hear what it was they said. At this sight I trembled with exceeding fear, and when they had made an end of eating, they cast the bones into the pit, and thereover heaped up the earth, e'en as it was before. Leaving them thus engaged in their foul and fulsome work, I hastened home, and, allowing the street door to remain half open as my bride had done, I reached my room and, throwing myself upon our bed, feigned sleep. Presently Amina came and, doffing her dress calmly, lay beside me, and I knew by her manner that she had not seen me at all, nor guessed that I had followed her to the cemetery. This gave me great relief of mind. Withal I loathed to bed beside a cannibal and a corpse-eater. Howbeit I lay still, despite extreme misliking, to the muezzin's call for dawn prayers, when, getting up, I busied myself with the wuzu ablution, and set forth mosquewards. Then, having said my prayers and fulfilled my ceremonial duties, I strolled about the gardens, and during this walk, having turned over the matter in my mind, determined that it behoved me to remove my bride from such ill companionship and wean her from the habit of devouring dead bodies. It's kind of putrid thought, isn't it? With these thoughts, I came back home at dinner time, when Amina, on seeing me return, bade the servants serve up the noontide meal, and we twain sat at table, but, as before, she fell to picking up the rice, grain by grain. Thereat said I to her, O my wife, it irketh me much to see thee picking up each grain of rice like a hen. If this dish suit not, thy taste, see there are, by Allah's grace and the Almighty's favour, all kinds of meats before us. Do thou eat of that which pleaseth thee most. Each day the table is bespread with dishes of various kinds, and if these please thee not, thou hast only to order whatsoever food thy soul desireth. Yet I would ask of thee one question. Is there no meat upon the table as rich and toothsome as man's flesh, that thou refuse of every dish they set before thee? Ere I had finished speaking, my wife became assured that I was aware of her night adventure. She suddenly waxed rough with exceeding wrath. Her face flashed red as fire. Her eyeballs started out from their sockets, and she foamed at the mouth with ungovernable fury. It's funny, you know, the sun came out and now the storm's whipping back round again. Odd weather. Seeing her in this mood, I was terrified. Probably explains why I feel so awful today. And my sense and reason fled by reason of my affright. But presently, in the madness of her passion, she took up a tuss of water which stood beside her, and dipping her fingers in the contents, muttered some words which I could not understand, then sprinkling some drops over me. Accursed that thou art, for this thine insolence and betrayal, do thou be straightway turned into a dog. Oh, Charlie, do we like his doggies, don't we, Charlie? Well, Mama did like his our doggy. You used to be quite mean to him, actually, Charlie. Sometimes you liked him, though, didn't you? Say bye-bye. 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 She said it before. Here's our bye-bye. Where is he? Here's our beautiful Beau. Here's our Beauregard. Him of the beautiful gaze. Him of the beautiful outlook. The handsome one. Where is he? Taken from us by arseholes. That dreadful drug, the Vecto and all the other fucking poisons, gave my dog a spleeny mass. You bastards. But anyway, what can we do? We've all been poisoned. Humans, animals, no doubt the birdies too, drinking from our plastic-infused water. Dear Goddess, we mustn't think about it or we can't carry on with our day. At once I became transmued, and she, picking up a staff, began to rib roast me right mercilessly and well-nigh killed me. Oh! No! No. I ran about from room to room, but she pursued me with the stick and thundered and belaboured me with might and main till she was clean exhausted. She then threw the street door half open, and as I made for it to save my life, attempted violently to close it, so as to squeeze my soul out of my body, but I saw her design and baffled it, leaving behind me, however, the tip of my tail. And piteously yelping. You used to like to hang off Beauregard's tail too, you demon bird. And piteously yelping hereat, I escaped further basting and thought myself lucky to get away from her without broken bones, Charlie. When I stood in the street still whining and ailing, the dogs of the quarter, seeing a stranger, at once came rushing at me, barking and biting, and I, with tail between my legs, tore along the marketplace and ran into the shop of one who sold sheep's and goats' heads and trotters, and there, crouching low, hid me in a dark corner. The shopkeeper, despite his scruples of conscience, which caused him to hold all dogs impure, hath ruth upon my story plight, and drove away the yelling and grinning curs that would have followed me into his shop, and I, escaping this danger of doom, passed all the night hid in my corner. Early next morning the butcher sallied forth to buy his usual wares, sheep heads and hooves, and coming back with a large supply, he began to lay them out for sale within the shop, when I, seeing that a whole pack of dogs had gathered about the place, attracted by the smell of flesh, also joined them. The owner noticed me among the ragged tykes, and said to himself, "This dog hath tasted naught since yesterday, when it ran yelping hungrily and hid within my shop." He then threw me a fair-sized piece of meat, but I refused it, and went up to him and wagged my tail, to the end that he might know my wish to stay with him and be protected by his stall. He, however, thought I had eaten my sufficiency, and, picking up a staff, frightened me away. So when I saw how the butcher heeded not my case, I trotted off, and wandering to and fro, presently came to a bakery, and stood before the door, wherethrough I espied the baker at breakfast. Albeit I made no sign as though I wanted aught of food, he threw me a bittock of bread, and I, in lieu of snapping it up and greedily swallowing it, as is the fashion with all dogs, the gentle and simple of them, approached him with it, and gazed in his face, and wagged my tail by way of thanks. He was pleased by this, my well-bred behaviour, and smiled at me, whereat I, albeit not one whit unhungered, but merely to humour him, fell to eating the bread, little by little and leisurely, to testify my respect. He was yet more satisfied with my manners, and wished to keep me in his shop. Now look here, Charlie, you need to stop with that aggression. It's enough now. I am not Beauregard. It's too much when you did it to Beauregard too. He was yet more satisfied with my manners, and wished to keep me in his shop, and I, noting his intent, sat by the door and looked wistfully at him, whereby he knew that I desired naught of him, save his protection. She is the New World Leader times 20, the last of my pets, who each in their turn were the current New World Leader, each finer New World Leaders than the idiot in charge of America right now, just saying. Well, soon to be. What's the word? What do they call it then? They install the next president. Inundated, indoctrinated, inculcated. There's a word, I can't think of it. Everyone's laughing now. Anyway, I can't stand that man. I couldn't stand him long before he became the president the first time around, and I will not be able to stand him long after. But that's just my thoughts on that matter. You're entitled to your own ideas. Don't hate me for mine. It's based on always thought he was a vile fucking creep. Even way back in the 80s. That horrible reality TV show he was on. Oh, I can't abide him. Just can't. Nope. Anyway, I don't like any of the politicians. So it's not just him. I hate them all equally. Evil they are. Except for maybe one or two that at least had the couth to stand up and fight against the COVID madness. They might be worthy of a vote, but then you don't know what their other attitudes to other issues are, do you? So no, you can't trust any of them. Just live your best lives, people of Earth. Work hard, play hard, make love with your beloved ones. Be there with your friends and family as much as you possibly can, and let the rest all just blow themselves up because they're all low-grade fucking entities. Anyway, where was I? I see Trudeau, pretty boy Trudeau's resigned. It's only a matter of time, wasn't it? The monster. By the gods. And that other thing, that other creature, Ardern, got made a Dane. They knighted the bitch. Who knights someone who's responsible for the genocide of her own people? Who does that? They're all in it up to here. Up to here. all corrupt and perverted and evil. I live in an inverted paradigm, and so I sit here reading fairy stories, trying to just keep myself safe by not actually engaging in their ugly, perverted, corrupt world, unless I absolutely have to go out there and buy food and exist a little bit in the world. But by the gods, it's not it's just not cricket anymore. It's just not pleasant. Right, come on, up you come, up you come. You're scratching Mama. I've got scratches all over my arm from you. Look at it. Doing what she wants, whatever. This is how you exist in the world. Be powerful, be slightly featherless, be a little bit fierce. Anyway. He then caressed me and took charge of me and kept me to guard his store. But I would not enter his house till after he had led the way. He also showed me where to lie o' nights, and fed me well at every meal, and entreated me right hospitably. I likewise would watch his, oh my darling, come on, every movement, and always lay down or rose up even as he bade me. And when as he left his lodging or walked any thither, he took me with him. If ever when I lay asleep he went outside and found me not, he would stand still in the street and call to me, crying, Bachet, Bachet, an auspicious name he had given to me. And straightway on hearing him, I would rush about and frisk before the door. Yes, bye-bye. And when he set out to taste the air, I paced beside him, now running on ahead, now following at his heels, and ever and anon looking up into his face. That's all we're left with, Charlie. Fairy stories. Well, day by day I'm creating my own beautiful love story, even if it's only my own imaginings, babies. Believe and receive the sweetness and the kindness being shown to me in recent months has been actually quite wonderful. To you, my beloved one, and my beautiful friends. So, there was that. Thus some time passed, during which I lived with him in all comfort, till one day of the days it so chanced that a woman came to the bakery to buy her bread, and gave the owner several dirhams to its price, whereof one was bad coin, whilst the others were good. My master tested all the silvers, and finding out the false bit, returned it, demanding a true dirham in exchange, but the woman wrangled and would not take it back, and swore that it was sound. Quoth the baker, the dirhams beyond all doubt are worthless. See yonder dog of mine, he is but a beast, yet mark me, he will tell thee whether it be true or false silver. So he called me by my name, Bacht, Bacht, whereat I sprang up and ran towards him, and he, throwing all the monies upon the ground before me, cried, Here, look these dirhams over, and if there be a false coin among them, separate it from all the others. I inspected the silvers each by each, and found the counterfeit. Then putting it on one side and all the others on another, I placed my paw on the false silver, and wagging what remained of my tail, looked up at my master's face. The baker was delighted with my sagacity, and the woman also, marvelling with excessive marvel at what had happened, took back her bad dirham and paid another in exchange. The crook. She knew it was dodgy. But when the buyer fared forth, my master called together his neighbours and gossips and related to them this matter. So they threw down on the ground before me coins both good and bad, in order that they might test me and see with their own eyes, and I were as clever as my master had said I was. Many times in succession I picked out the false coins from amongst the true, and placed my paw upon them without once failing. So all went away astounded, and related the case to each and every one they saw, and thus the bruit of me spread abroad throughout the city. That livelong day I spent in testing dirhams, fair and foul. From that day forward the baker honoured me yet more highly, and all his friends and family laughed and said, Forsooth, thou hast in this dog a mighty good shroff. And some envied my master his luck in having me within the shop. Just going to reply to my friend because I realised because I was making the video I haven't actually given her, tried to negotiate time for her to visit me. Yeah, giving her plenty of options for what day to come. Right, where was I? People of Earth. Multitasking. Not many days after, there came another woman to buy loaves at our shop, and paid the baker 6 dirhams, whereof one was worthless. My master passed them over to me for test and trial, and straightway I picked out the false one, and placing paw thereon, looked up in the woman's face. Hereat she waxed confused, and confessed that it was miscoined, and praised me for that I had found it out. Then, going forth, the same woman made signs to me that I should follow her, unbeknown to the baker. Now I had not ceased praying Allah that somehow he would restore me to my human form, and hoped that some good follower of the Almighty would take note of this my sorry condition and vouchsafe me succour. So the woman turned several times and looked at me. As the woman turned several times and looked at me, I was persuaded in my mind that she had knowledge of my case. I therefore kept my eyes upon her, which seeing she came back ere she had stepped many paces, and beckoned me to accompany her. I understood her signal, and sneaking out of the presence of the baker, who was busy heating his oven, followed in her wake, pleased beyond all measure to see me obey her, she went straightway home with me, and entering she locked the door and led me into a room where sat a fair maid in embroidered dress, whom I judged by her favour to be the good woman's daughter. The damsel was well skilled in arts magical, so the mother said to her, O my daughter, here is a dog which telleth bad dirhams from good dirhams. When first I heard the marvel, I bethought me that the beastie must be a man whom some base wretch and cruel-hearted had turned into a dog. Methought that to-day I would see this animal and test it, when buying loaves at the booth of yonder baker, and behold it hath acquitted itself after the fairest of fashions, and hath stood the test and trial. Look well, O my daughter, at this dog, and see whether it be indeed an animal, or a man transformed into a beast by gramarye. The young lady, who had veiled her face, hereupon considered me attentively, and presently cried, O my mother, 'tis even as thou sayest, and this I will prove to thee forthright. Then, rising from her seat, she took a basin of water, and dipping hand therein sprinkled some drops upon me, saying, An thou wert born a dog, then do thou abide a dog, but an thou wert born a man, then by virtue of this water resume thine human favour and figure. Immediately I was transformed from the shape of a dog to a human semblance, and I fell at the maiden's feet and kissed the ground before her, giving her thanks. Then, bussing the hem of her garment, I cried, O my lady, thou hast been exceeding gracious unto one unbeknown to thee, and a stranger. How can I find words wherewith to thank thee and bless thee as thou deserves? Tell me now, I pray thee, how and whereby I may shew my gratitude to thee. From this day forth I am beholden to thy kindness, and am become thy slave. I'm sure that's a good idea, actually. Becoming someone's slave. I mean, gratitude is a wondrous thing, but it's going a little bit far, don't you think? Then I related all my case, and told her of Amina's wickedness and what of wrongs she had wrought me, and I made due acknowledgment to her mother for that she had brought me to her home. Herewith quoth the damsel to me, O Sidi Nu'uman, I pray thee bestow not such exceeding thanks upon me, for rather I am glad and grateful in conferring the service upon one so well deserving as thou art. I have been familiar with thy wife Amina for a long time before thou didst marry her. I also knew that she had skill in witchcraft, and she likewise knoweth for my art, for we twain learnt together of one and the same mistress in the science. We met oft times at the hammam as friends, but inasmuch as she was ill-mannered and ill-tempered, I declined further intimacy with her. Wise. Think not that it sufficeth me to have made thee recover thy form, as it was aforetime. Nay, verily needs must I take due vengeance of her for the wrong she hath done me. And this will I do at thy hand, so shalt thou have mastery over her, and find thyself lord of thine own house and home. Tarry here a while, until I come again. So saying, the damsel passed into another room, and I remained sitting and talking with her mother, and praised her excellence and kindness towards me. The ancient dame also related strange and rare deeds of wonder done by her with pure purpose and lawful means, till the girl returned with an ewer in hand, and said, O Sidi Nu'uman, my magical art doth tell me that Amina is at this present away from home, but she will return thither presently. Meanwhile she dissembleth with the domestics, and feigneth grief at severance from thee. And she hath pretended that, as thou sattest at meat with her, that thou didst suddenly arise and fare forth on some weighty matter, when presently a dog rushed through the open window into the room, and she drove it away with a staff. Then giving me a gugglet full of water, the maiden resumed, O Sidi Nu'uman, go now to thine own house, and keeping this gugglet by thee, await patiently Amina's coming. Anon she will return, and seeing thee will be sore perplexed, and will hasten to escape from thee. But before she go forth, sprinkle some drops from this gugglet upon her, and recite these spells which I shall teach thee. I need not tell thee more, thou wilt espy with thine own eyes what shall happen. Having said these words, the young lady taught me magical phrases, which I fixed in my memory full firmly, and after this I took my leave and farewelled them both. When I reached home, it happened even as the young magician had told me, and I had tarried but a short time in the house when Amina came in. I held the gugglet in hand, and she, seeing me, trembled with sore trembling, and would fain have run away, but I hastily sprinkled some drops upon her, and repeated the magical words, whereat she was turned into a mare, the animal thy highness deigned remark but yesterday. I marvelled greatly to sight this transformation, and seizing the mare's mane, led her to the stable and secured her with a halter. When I had secured the mare, I loaded her with reproaches for her wickedness and her base behaviour, and lashed her with a whip till my forearm was tired. Then I resolved within myself that I would ride her at full speed round the square each day, and thus inflict upon her the justest penalty. Herewith Sidi Nu'uman held his peace, having made an end of his telling his tale, but presently he resumed, O Commander of the Faithful, I trow thou art not displeased at this my conduct. Nay, rather thou wouldst punish such a woman with a punishment still greater than this. He then kissed the hem of the Caliph's robe and kept silence, and Harun Al-Rashid, perceiving that he had said all his say, exclaimed, In very sooth thy story is exceeding strange and rare. The wrongdoing of thy wife hath no excuse, and thy requital is methinks in due measure and just degree. But I would ask thee one thing, how long wilt thou chastise her thus, and how long will she remain in bestial guise? 'Twere better now for thee to seek the young lady by whose magical skill thy wife was transformed, and beg that she bring her back to human shape. And yet I fear me greatly lest perchance, whenas this sorceress, this Gula, should find herself restored to woman's form, and resumeth her conjurations and incantations, she may, who knoweth, requite thee with far greater wrong than she hath done thee heretofore, and from this thou wilt not be able to escape. After this the Prince of True Believers forbore to urge the matter, albeit he was mild and merciful by nature, and addressing the third man whom the Wazir had brought before him, said, As I was walking in such a quarter, I was astonished to see thy mansion, so great and so grand is it, And when I made inquiry of the townsfolk, they answered each and every that the palace belongeth to one, thyself, whom they called Khwaja Hassan. They added that thou west erewhile exceeding poor, and in straitened case, but that Allah Almighty had widened thy means, and had now sent thee wealth in such store, that thou hast builded the finest of buildings. Moreover, that, albeit thou hast so princely a domicile, and such abundance of riches, thou art not unmindful of thy former estate, and thou dost not waste thy substance in riotous living, but thou addest thereto by lawful trade. The neighbourhood all speaketh well of thee, and not a wight of them hath aught to say against thee. So I now would know of thee the certainty of these things, and hear from thine own lips how thou didst gain this abundant wealth. I have summoned thee before me, that I might be assured of all such matters by actual hearsay. So fear not to tell me all thy tale. I desire naught of thee, save knowledge of this thy case. Enjoy thou to thy heart's content the opulence that Almighty Allah deigned bestow upon thee, and let thy soul have pleasure therein. Thus spake the Caliph, and the gracious words reassured the man. Then Khwaja Hassan threw himself before the commander of the faithful, and, kissing the carpet at the foot of the throne, exclaimed, O Prince of true believers, I will relate to thee a faithful relation of my adventure, and Almighty Allah be my witness that I have not done aught contrary to thy laws and just commandments, and that all this my wealth is by the favour and goodness of Allah alone. Harun Al-Rashid hereupon again bade him speak out boldly, and forthwith he began to recount the following words. The history of Khwaja Hassan al-Habal. O Lord of beneficence, obedient to thy royal behest, I will now inform thy highness of the means and the measures whereby destiny cowered me with such wealth. But first I would thou hear somewhat of two amongst my friends, who abode in the house of peace, Baghdad. They twain are yet alive, and both well know the history which thy slave shall thou relate. One of them men called Sa'd, and the other Sa'di. Now Sa'di opined. Sorry, I just had a funny memory. I don't know if I can share it with you. Oh, why not? It's been mischievous. Many years ago, I was quite unwell on hefty psych meds. So I wasn't always thinking all that, clearly, quite frankly. I was always in a kind of a permanent kind of a fog. And anyway, so as a consequence, there were a few unfortunate events that happened. One of which was, from time to time, my neighbours would spy me naked because I didn't give a fuck. I still don't actually. I still have to kind of sneak around the house hoping that they don't spy me naked. But in those days, I didn't actually care all that much because it wasn't a sexual kind of provocation or any kind of lure. I just didn't care. It's like, went without a bra for 2 years, for example. I just kind of became just barely functioning, and I kind of lost any sense of pride or modesty, or maybe modesty is not the word. I can't explain. It was weird, people. Anyway, so one night, one evening, I was standing in my bedroom window, and I was just looking out the window, and I actually hadn't even remembered that I was naked. So the gentleman in question would have only seen me probably from the waist up anyway, my bare breasts, and it's kind of funny. But I'm just standing there, and I was actually didn't know that he was there, because I was looking out, as I do, admiring the lightning and the thunder, because there was a storm brewing, and I'm very affected by storms. I've been ill all day because I've sensed the storm that still kind of cycling us, actually. It explains my hypomania last night, not being able to sleep till after 2 a.m. and being kind of innervated. I'm a weather witch. It's the way it is, babies. It's probably from all the brain damage from all the near deaths as a child. So, well, my brain's been rewired, put it that way. I'm not damaged per se, I've just got different circuitry to everyone else. So anyway, so I'm standing in my window, looking out, admiring the lightning, and suddenly I became aware that there was a man standing opposite me, looking back at me. Not even lasciviously, just kind of probably, kind of more like that. I'm kind of more shocked that he's getting a full view of my mammary glands. And those days I was very fat. I was 103 kilos. I shuffled and I drooled on those cyclones and became very large indeed. So I'm looking out, and suddenly I become conscious that there's a man looking back at me from my neighbour's window. It wasn't my neighbour, but he'd taken in, he used to take in backpackers from time to time. I didn't know he'd taken in a backpacker on that particular day. I would not have been standing naked in my window, trust me on that. So there's this man looking back at me. Now, my daughters lived with me. I moved into this house in 2003 on the 5th of May, and they moved out in 2006. So it would have been sometime between 2003 and 2006, because Jasmine was still living with me. Oh dear God, yes. Jasmine being my younger daughter. So she comes running into the bedroom, and I give a little shriek and kind of duck down. And Jasmine goes, what's going on, Mum? I went, oh, there's a man in the neighbour's window. He's just seen me naked. And I'm so embarrassed. I actually was embarrassed, because I wasn't trying to put on a, naval display. So anyway, I wasn't trying to be, Bathsheba or Salome of the Seven Veils. I was just fucking looking at the storm. So anyway, Jasmine runs to the window and looks. She goes, the man's still standing there, Mummy. And I was like, oh dear goodness, how embarrassing. She said, draw the curtains, draw the curtain. She goes, okay. And then, so we draw the curtain, and she turns to me and she says, I shall name him Sard. I said to her, where'd you get the name Sard from? It's a name of a very brand name, a very rough soap that you use to cleanse oil and grease off your fingers if you're a mechanic or you work with greasy tools. Well, so I said, what on earth, Jasmine, did you think of that name? So anyway, when I heard this name Sard, it reminded me of that funny little anecdote. Oh, anyway, another time, which is equally embarrassing, I'm sitting at my dining table, and I had a sarong on. It was heat of summer. This was only about, was it during the COVID epoch? It might have been, around about 2020. And I can't use my mental health being poor, because I was synapsing quite clearly by 2020, because I was 4 years free of psych meds and I was travelling quite well. But it was a stinking hot night, and I'm sitting at my dining table and looking down, reading something, and my sarong that I had tied up around my chest had slipped down, and so my right breast was on full display. And I wasn't even conscious of it, like it didn't bother me, it's hot. But suddenly I feel like I'm being stared at. So I look out the kitchen window and there's my neighbour Timsa looking at me, staring at my very white skin, my very white breast. So I just kind of looked and I thought, my God, how long has it been standing there? Because I've been sitting like that for a while, not conscious that I was on display. So I just looked at him and I just casually pulled up my sarong and just went, and then just turned away because I thought, what can I do? It's fucking staring at my breast. Anyway, it gets funnier, people of Earth. So about a day or two later, he's a very nice man, my neighbour. He's scared of me, which is a good thing. I love it when a man's scared of me. And he's a very nice man. He's Indian. He's very handsome looking man. But when I first moved in 2003, at that point in time, he was a rabid, crazy, batshit crazy, fundamentalist Christian. He's married, his wife, and I think they just had their second baby or third baby. Anyway, they were, a family. It was a family home, and they were married. He was married at that time, and but he used to come over and start fighting me about religion because I mentioned that I'm Jewish and I'm a witch because I'm out. I'm always out about that, and I always throw it into this conversation early piece because I want people to know, this is my walk, and don't impose your walk on me, and I won't impose my walk on you. But if you're interested, we can discuss it and learn about things together and keep an open mind, right? But I don't need to study Christianity because I was raised in that religion and it didn't agree with me. Let's just put it delicately. Surrounded by a family of fucking pedophiles and their neighbours, for example, and the bigotry of that religion, that they're the only ones going to heaven. I hate that. I find it abhorrent. So I've never been fond of that religious walk. And it's no judgment against good, kind, true Christians or good, kind, loving people, but by and large, the fundamentalists really believe that they're superior and that they're the only ones going to heaven, and I have issues with that as a witch and a Jew and a shaman. It's a big, big, big multiverse babies. But anyway, so my neighbour used to come over and have these massive rows with me about religion. And finally I said to him, why do you come here to upset me about religion when you know I don't share your beliefs? And, I know you don't share my beliefs. So what's actually the point of this exercise? And then he stopped. He stopped doing that, for which I was grateful for. Another male that, like my friend Peter, it was funny how Peter used to do that too. He used to like to try and come and have intimacy by conflict, stir me up and create the most dreadful fights, not realising that that's how you make a fucking enemy for life of mine. If you come here to my home and start a fucking fight about something, it's a trigger for me. It's also not cricket, and it's not polite. I don't go to your home and start fucking fights, for example. It's very dishonouring, disrespectful, but I forgave my friend Peter because I was very fond of him and his partner and his elderly mother, and he is a sweet man, but he had to be told eventually, stop stirring Tanya up. That's not how you maintain a friendship with her. And, he did stop that. But it took him a couple of years to reach that gnosis. Actually took my friend Jared telling him, you'll never get anywhere with Tanya if you speak to her and treat her like that. And he nodded and said, I've been using the wrong approach the whole time. But I'm laughing about it now, but it used to grind my gears. So anyway, my neighbour Timsa had a similar attitude towards me. He'd throw his hands in the air and say, you don't understand me, and you're not listening, and you've got a big ego. I haven't got a big ego. I've listened to you. I don't agree with you, but that doesn't mean we can't have a good relationship, as in be good neighbours, and you have your religion and I have mine, and you know there's only one consciousness, one universe, and love is love, and we can still be kind of friends, you know, neighbours. What's this throwing tantrums and wobbly saying, you don't listen? He was the one with the big ego. Couldn't have a fucking conversation with him in the end, so stopped bothering. And anyway, in the intervening years, he'd separated with his wife, and because that marriage was towards the end quite, I used to hear the blazing rows, right? So anyway, so 2020 he'd separated from his wife, and he'd seen my white fat mammary gland, you know, my lung capacitator, my lung protector, and you have to laugh, gentlemen of earth. It's all very silly, but you know, it's all very silly, really. Human sexuality, what you deem attractive. And I mean, I laugh about it too, to be honest, even as a woman. So anyway, so a couple of days go by after he's seen my breast, and I've forgotten about it because it's like, so you see some woman's breast. It's not like I was like peeling things off and trying to seduce him. I'm literally sitting at my fucking kitchen table, completely unaware that he was out there watching me. It's just weird, people of Earth. So a few days go by and I'm sitting on my couch and I heard my gates go. Because you can hear the clunking of the chain on the gate. I still didn't react because I thought, oh, it's probably the gas man come to read the gas meter. I'm sitting on my couch. And I hear this kind of scuffling out in the garden opposite my front door. He didn't even come to the door. That's how unusual he is. He's not a bad person, he's just a bit odd. So I hear this kind of frenetic sort of scuffling. So I went to my door, opened the door, it's my neighbour out there. I said, oh, hello Tim, sir. I said, he very rarely visits me. We've lived beside each other now for 21 years. 21, going on for 22 years in May. And it's odd. It's a very odd thing. So I thought, oh, I wonder what's happened, that he's come to see me, you know. I think it's some emergency of some kind, which there have been a few things happened over the years. So I said, what's going on, Tim? So he said, he said, I've come to see you. He wanted a piece of my black bamboo, which people often ask for pieces of it. I said, sure, I'll come with you, you know, cut. I'll give you the tool, you can cut it down. I make them do the work since it's something they want, you know. Bugger it. It's also a lot of work cutting down bamboo. You know, he was all very happy about that. So we go to the back garden, and he just sort of doing this weird kind of almost fade dance with me. It was odd. I still don't know what that was. I think it was some kind of courtship ritual. But I didn't buy into it because he's my neighbour. He's a bit odd. And he thinks I'm odd. And there for the twain, there for the two of us got together. And anyway, but it was quite sweet. At one point he sort of reached up. I don't know how he did it actually. And then I reached up too. I think we were reaching up for the bamboo. And literally it was almost erotic, you know. Had I not thought that he was a bit too odd to go there with him because of the oddities, it would have been a very erotic gesture. So we both reach up, unconsciously I think, simultaneously, and our arms brushed against each other like that. And then he kind of looked at me and smiled, and then I just went and pulled back, as I fucking do, because I thought the last thing I need now is to have my neighbour be madly in love with me and think he's going to be seducing me. So anyway, he realised that it was not intentional and just one of those fluke things, and he was a perfect gentleman about it actually. Just saw the look of my eye like, don't go there, girlfriend. And He gave me some lovely gingers, which have subsequently died, which I'm disappointed about. And to be honest, I'd like to ask him for some more of the ginger, but it involves interfacing with them and, hi Timsa, can I have some ginger? It just sounds all too semi-erotic, so I can't go there. So I'm living without the ginger. I'm living without quite a few things. If I didn't stand on my principles at all times, do you think of the amazing sex life I could have had with this man for the last 5 or 6 years since he separated and divorced his wife? But no, because you see the oddity of the constantly aggravating me and fighting me and stirring me up, and also his little habits of whenever my friend Jared visits, he finds an excuse to run out in the front yard and look for Jared's car and see who's there and thinks I've got a man. So he's obviously had some kind of little almost schoolboy crush on me over the years, but he's stopped it now. Thank the goddess. Settled down. But, from time to time Jared would arrive and he'd say, your neighbour's rushed out to look to see who's here. And I went, but why? He knows you and he knows your car now. It's a bit odd. But anyway, so I'm dealing with this kind of crisis at the moment. It's become a kind of a crisis that I've got so many people, there's like miniature little crushes on me that can't be consummated people because of their situations. They're either married, in relationships, in partnership, or in his case, single but a bit too fucking odd, and I can't go there for those reasons, or, they're gay, or there's some other kind of unavailability that I'm just holding at arm's length like that, and it's getting very, very, it's sweet, but it's getting a bit confronting. It's like, what's going on? What's going on, people of Earth? But anyway, I just wanted to share that little story about Saad and Timsa, both of whom saw me in my naked or semi-naked state. Oh dear goddess. Oh dear goddess. Anyway, one of them men called Saad and the other Sadi. Now Sadi opined that without riches no one in this world could be happy and independent. Moreover, that without hard toil and trouble and weariness and wisdom, I wonder if I'm going to run out of time for this video. I think so too. Oh dear goodness. Withal it were impossible to become wealthy. So one thought you should be, without money you couldn't be happy, and the other one, that you had to work hard and have trouble and weariness and wisdom, blah blah blah. But Saad, differing therefrom, would affirm that affluence cometh not to any save by decree of destiny and fiat of fate and fortune. There's a little bit of truth to that actually. The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. Ask me how I know. Saad was a poor man, while Sadi had great store of good. Yet there sprang up a firm friendship between them and fond affection each for other. Nor were they ever wont to differ upon any matter save only upon this, to wit, that Sadi relied solely upon deliberation and forethought, and Saad upon doom and man's lot. Sounds like my ex-husband. He was a doomer. Ugh. Wasted everyone's oxygen, he was. Anyway, it chanced one day that, as they sat talking together on this matter, quoth Sadi, a poor man is he who either is born a pauper, and passeth all his days in want and penury, or he who, having been born to wealth and comfort, doth, in the time of manhood, squander all he hath, and falleth into grievous need. Then lacketh he the power to regain his riches, and to live at ease by wit and industry. Saad made answer, saying, Nor wit nor industry availeth aught to anyone, but fate alone enableth him to acquire and to preserve riches. Misery and want are but accidents, and deliberation is naught. Full many a poor man hath waxed affluent by favour of fate, and riches manifold have, despite their skill and store, been reduced to misery and beggary. Quoth Sadi, Thou speakest foolishly, howbeit put we the matter to fair test, and find out for ourselves some handicraftsman scanty of means, and living upon his daily wage. Him let us provide with money, then will he without a doubt increase his stock, and abide in ease and comfort. And so shalt thou be persuaded that my words be true. Now, as they twain were walking on, they passed through the lane wherein stood my lodging, and saw me a-twisting ropes, which craft my father and grandfather and many generations before me had followed. By the condition of my home and dress they judged that I was a needy man. Whereupon Saad, pointing me out to Sadi, said, And thou wouldst make trial of this our matter of dispute. See yonder wight, W-I-G-H-T. He hath dwelt here for many years, and by this trade of rope making cloth, gain a bare subsistence for himself and his. I know his case right well of old. He is a worthy subject for the trial. So do thou give him some gold pieces and test the matter. Right willingly, replied Sadi, but first let us take full cognizance of him. So the two friends came up to me, whereat I left my work and saluted them. They returned my salam, after which quoth Sadi, Prithee, what be thy name? Quoth I, My name is Hassan, but by reason of my trade of rope making all men call me Hassan al-Habal. Thereupon Sadi, I'm just going to check on that bird. Where are you, Charlie? Oh, there you are. Thereupon Sadi asked me, How farest thou by this industry? Methinks thou art blithe and quite content therewith. Thou hast worked long and well, and doubtless thou hast laid by large store of hemp and other stock. Thy forebears carried on this craft for many years, and must have left thee much of capital and property, which thou hast turned to good account, and on this wise thou hast largely increased thy wealth. Quoth I, O my lord, no money have I in pouch whereby I may live happy, or even buy me enough to eat. This is my case, that each day from dawn till eve I spend in making ropes, nor have I one single moment wherein to take rest, and still I am sore straitened to provide even dry bread for myself and family. A wife have I, and 5 small children, who are yet too young to help me ply this business, and 'tis no easy matter to supply their daily wants. How then canst thou suppose that I am enabled to put by large store of hemp and stock? What ropes I twist each day I sell straightway, and of the money earned thereby I spend part upon our needs, and with the rest I buy hemp wherewith I twist ropes on the next day. However, praise be to Almighty Allah that, despite this my state of penury, He provideth us with bread sufficing our necessity. When I had made little Chihuahua going past. When I had made known all my conditions, Sadi replied, O Hassan, now I am certified of thy case, and indeed 'tis other than I had supposed, and given that I give thee a purse of 200 ashrafis, assuredly thou shalt therewith greatly add to thy gains, and be enabled to live in ease and affluence. What sayest thou thereto? Said I, An thou favour me with such bounty, I should hope to grow richer than all and every of my fellow craftsmen, albeit Baghdad town is prosperous as it is populous. Then Sadi, deeming me true and trustworthy, pulled out of his pocket a purse of 200 gold pieces, and, handing them to me, said, "Take these coins and trade therewith. May Allah advance thee, but see to it that thou use this money with all heed, and waste it not in folly and ungraciousness. I and my friend Saad will rejoice with all joy to hear of thy well-being, and if hereafter we come again and find thee in flourishing condition, 'twill be matter of much satisfaction to us both." Accordingly, O Commander of the Faithful, I took the purse of gold with much gladness and a grateful heart, and placing it in my pocket, thanked Sadi, kissing his garment hem, whereupon the two friends fared forth, and I, O Prince of true believers, seeing the twain depart, went on working, but was sore puzzled and perplexed as to where I might bestow the purse. For my house contained neither cupboard nor locker. Howbeit I took it home, and kept the matter hidden from my wife and children, and when alone and unobserved, I drew out 10 gold coins by way of spending money. Then, binding the purse mouth with a bit of string, I tied it tightly in the folds of my turban, and wound the cloth around my head. How many pages have we got left, babies? Oh dear God, yes. I'm so tired. I was tired before I began this video, and now I'm verging on anarchy and chaos, babies. Anyway, I'll carry on a little bit longer, and then I might leave a little bit for another day. Presently I went off to the market street and bought me a stock of hemp, and coming homewards I laid in some meat for supper, it being now a long while since we had tasted flesh. But as I trudged along the road, meat in hand, a kite came suddenly swooping down, and would have snatched the morsel from out my hand had I not driven off the bird with the other hand. Then it fain pounced upon the flesh on the left side, but again I scared it away, and thus, whilst exerting myself with frantic efforts to ward off the bird, by ill luck my turban fell to the ground. At once that accursed kite swooped low and flew off with it in its talons, and I ran pursuing it and shouted aloud. Hearing my cries, the bazaar folk, men and women, and a rout of children, did what they could to scare it away and make the beastly bird drop its prey, but they shouted and cast stones in vain. The kite would not let drop the turban, and presently flew clean out of sight. I was sore distressed and heavy-hearted to lose the Ashrafis, as I tried me home bearing the hemp, and what of food I had bought. But chiefly was I vexed and grieved in mind, and ready to die of shame at the thought of what Sadi would say, especially when I reflected how he would misdoubt my words, nor deem the tale true, when I should tell him that a kite had carried off my turban with the gold pieces, but rather would he think that I had practised some deceit, and had devised some amusing fable by way of excuse. Howbeit, I hugely enjoyed what had remained of the 10 Ashrafis, and with my wife and children fared sumptuously for some days. Presently, when all the gold was spent and naught remained thereof, I became as poor and needy as before. Withal I was content and thankful to Almighty Allah, nor blamed my lot. He had sent in his mercy this purse of gold to me unawares, and now he had taken it away, wherefore I was grateful and satisfied, for what he doeth is ever well done. My wife, who knew not of the matter of the Ashrafis, presently perceived that I was ill at ease, and I was compelled for a quiet life to let her know my secret. Moreover, the neighbours came round to ask me of my case. But I was right loath to tell them all that had betided. They could not bring back what was gone, and they would assuredly rejoice at my calamity. However, when they pressed me close, I told them every whit, and some thought that I had spoken falsely and derided me, and others that I was daft and harebrained, and my words were the wild pratings of an idiot or the drivel of dreams. The youngsters made abundant fun of me and laughed to think that I, who never in my born days had sighted a golden coin, should tell how I had gotten so many Ashrafis, and how a kite had flown away with them. My wife, however, gave full credence to my tale, and wept and bet her breast for sorrow. Thus 6 months passed over us, when it chanced one day that the two friends, to wit, Sadi and Sad, have to laugh again, came to my quarter of the town, when quoth Sad to Sadi, Lo, yonder is the street where dwelleth Hassan al-Habal. Come, let us go. It's one of the few happy memories I have with my younger daughter, her inventing that name for the voyeur next door, am I right? Come, let us go and see how he hath added to his stock. And I did not look attractive in those days. I was very, very fat and very, very ill mentally. I was just a walking puddle of kind of fatness, and my soul was not quite integrated in my body, and I was just zombie. I was just a very fat golem, perhaps even a ghoul. I'm not quite sure really. Anyway, let's not go there. Let's not go there, go friends and girlfriends. By the grace of the gods, I'm more beautiful now than I was back then, and I'm working on getting healthier still at this late phase of my life, and still trying to attract my beautiful man who adores me and values and cherishes and is a wonderful lover to me. And I'm still trying to manifest my own prosperity, which, as we're hearing here, is sometimes only gifted by the gods. So there is that. And I'm laughing in the face of my own rather odd existence, and wow, maybe I should have allowed the neighbour to press his flesh against mine more ways than one, darling, but we're not going there, girlfriends and guy friends, for aforementioned reasons. Anyway, where were we? I'm trying not to laugh here because it's just that absurdist. I was smirking at the word sumptuous because I had a gentleman friend I met on Paltalk. I forget what his nickname was, but he lived in London, and he would message me each day, "Oh, psychedelic dreamer, you are so sumptuous." I said, "Yes, that may be so, but I am in no ways, means or manner a movable feast." Had to flick him off too. He became rather obsessed too. Went on for a few weeks. Had trouble getting rid of that one. Had to block and delete him in the end. Oh, those were the days, my friend. We thought they'd never end. We'd sing and dance forever and a day. We live the life we choose. We'd fight but never lose. Those were the days. Oh yes, those were the days. I'm so glad I'm not young anymore. My mother used to say that to me. I'd think, "You evil bitch." But now I'm there, I completely understand how she feels, to be honest, on that score. The female sexuality. It's quite wondrous when you think about it. The older we get, the more wondrous it gets. Shh, don't tell them. Anyway, there's my stir up for the day. Now, you just have to all go and lick your wounds, baby boys and baby girls. Now, where was I? Oh, that just sounds disgusting. Don't lick your wounds, baby girls. There'll be none of that. There'll be none of that. Stand triumphant in your own womanliness and control all your basest desires and grow back your own power. Then you too will be glad that you're not young anymore. I tell you what, when I finally take a lover, it's going to be astonishing. But that person has to demonstrate to me his true love and actually, stop sending me mixed messages and flubberizing in the wilderlands, in the shadowlands, circling around me, unable to make any kind of decision, bing bam boom baby, and when he sorts himself out, it's going to be on for young and old. Oh well, it's a nice little fantasy in my head. I'll just rein that back in too. Rein that back in. I'll be good, I promise. But what did my psychiatrist say to me in our debrief yesterday? How did he put it? He said that I've been lured back in, like all family doesn't want to part with their beloved one. And the beloved ones arc up on occasion, as I tend to do, especially at Christmas. He said you've been lured back in typical family dynamic, lured back in quite cleverly actually, because you're greatly admired and very much loved. He repeated that twice. Greatly admired and very much loved. But I don't like mixed messaging and confusion and not knowing where I stand with anyone, man, woman or child, ghost, demon, ghoul, angel, fae, any entity. Charlie always lets me know where she stands, so don't you, Charlie? Anyway, it's quite delightful. It's quite delightful. Then he told me off and said that I was being erotic in some of my missives. I shared my missive with them. I said, no, that's not. That's musicians speak. I was discussing chords and a musical instrument. And he looked at me and, well, we won't go there. It's getting a little bit out of line, that one. We need to be pulled into line too. Just saying. Anyway, I'm riding a very fine line all of a sudden at this late stage of my life at 3 months shy, almost 3 months shy of 60. It's been very, very unusual and quirky and almost surrealist and magical. And I don't quite understand it all myself, people of Earth. All I can say is I spent most of my life not fitting in your world, and then when your world imploded, you've all decided that you belong in mine now, made me queen of my own destiny, which is all fine and dandy, but, to be a queen of her own realm takes great responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility. But so many people that never understood who I was, even 10 years ago, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, now look to me as some kind of charismatic leader. And all I ever did was say no. Pay attention when I say yes, too, babies. Could be astonishing. But anyway, I don't quite understand it all. But my doctor tells me I'm greatly admired, and I can see that. I've seen that with my own 2 CPAP mask shrunken, sinking into my own skull, eyes. My eyes hurt all the time, people of Earth. This try not to die thing that I've been doing for nearly 60 years is laborious. So when I live triumphantly and joyously and I activate my sexuality with a wonderful man again, can I do it? I don't know. I'm not teasing, I'm just saying I'm very, very nervous about the concept. Very nervous about the concept indeed, because I've had a lot of awfulness in the past and I cannot have that happen ever, ever again. It's actually life-threatening. It's the other reason why my neighbour, who I could say was sweet on me, held at arm's length for a very, very long time till that eventually dissipated, which it does. Eventually people fall out of love and calm their farm. I've been waiting to fall out of love myself a few times. It can take me years. It can take me years of suffering, people of Earth. It's the other reason why I shut down my sexuality. I don't want to suffer over a man. I want to be loved and adored and valued and cherished and respected and cared for and have fun with and be surrounded by our friends and family and tribe who love us and have a healthy connection and great sex, but also great friendship and great respect and trust and honour. I can't settle for anything that's not that, she says, grieving in her fucking soup. I had chicken soup today, it was very nice. Anyway, where were we? Running almost out of time in this video. Thus 6 months went by, past Iris, when it chanced one day that the two friends, to wit, Sadi and Saad, came to my quarter of the town. Then cried Saad to Sadi, Lo, yonder is the street where dwelleth Hassan al-Habal. Come, let us go and see how he hath added to his stock, and how far he hath prospered by means of the 200 ashrafis thou gavest him. Sadi rejoined, 'Tis well said indeed. We have not seen him for many days. I would fain visit him, and I should rejoice to hear that he hath prospered. So the twain walked along towards my house, Saad saying to Sadi, Forsooth I perceive that he appeareth the same in semblance, poor and ill-conditioned as before. He weareth old and tattered garments, save that his turban seemeth somewhat newer and cleaner. Look well, and judge thyself, and 'tis even as I said. About to blip off any moment now, just bear in mind. Thereupon Sadi came up closer to me, and he also understood that my condition was unaltered, and presently the two friends addressed me. After the usual salutation, Saad asked, O Hassan, how fareth it with thee, and how goeth it with thy business, and have the 200 ashrafis stood thee in good stead, and amended thy trade? To this answered I, O my lords, how can I tell you of the sad mishap that hath befallen me? I dare not speak of it for very shame, yet cannot I keep the adventure concealed. Verily a marvellous matter and a wondrous hath happened to me, the tale whereof will fill you with wonderment and suspicion, for I wot full well that ye will not believe it, and that I shall be as to you as one that dealeth in lies. Withal needs must I tell you the whole, however unwillingly. Hereat I recounted to them every whit that had betided me, first and last, especially that which hath befallen me from the kite. But Sadi misdoubted me and mistrusted me, and cried, O Hassan, thou speakest but in jest, and dost dissemble with us. 'Tis hard to believe the tale thou tellest. Kites are not wont to fly off with turbans, but only with such things as they can eat. Thou wouldst but outwit us, and thou art of those who, when some good fortune cometh to them unforeseen, do straightways abandon their work or their business, and wasting all in pleasuring, become once more poor, and thereafter must nilly-willy eke out a living as best they may. This, methinks, be especially the case with thee, Thou hast squandered our gift with all speed, and now art needy as before. "Oh, good my lord, not so," cried I. "This blame and these hard words ill befit my deserts, but I am wholly innocent of all thou imputest to me. The strange mishap whereof I told thee is the truest of truths, and to prove that it is no lie, all the townsfolk have knowledge thereof, and in good sooth I do not play thee false. 'Tis certain that kites do not fly away with turbans, but such mishaps, wondrous and marvellous, may betide mankind, especially the miserable of lot." Saad also espoused my case and said, "O Sadi, oft times have we seen and heard how kites carry off many things besides comestibles, and his tale may not be wholly contrary to reason." Then Sadi pulled out from his pocket a purse full of gold pieces, and counted out and gave me another 200, saying, "O Hassan, take these ashrafis, but see that thou keep them with all heed and diligence, and beware, and again I say, beware, lest thou lose them like the others. Expend them in such fashion that thou mayst reap full benefit therefrom, and prosper even as thou seest thy neighbours prosper." I took the money from him and poured out thanks and blessings upon his head, and when they went their ways, I returned to my rope walk, and thence in due time straight home. My wife and children were abroad, so again I took 10 gold coins of the 200 and securely tied up the remainder in a piece of cloth. When I looked around to find a spot wherein to hide my hoard, so that my wife and youngsters might not come to know of it and lay hands thereon. Presently I espied a large earthen jar full of bran standing in a corner of the room, so herein I hid the rag with the gold coins, and I misdeemed that it was safely concealed from wife and wees. Wees meaning the little ones, not wee as in P. When I had put the ashrafis abottom the jar of bran, my wife came in, and I said naught to her of the 2 friends, or of aught had happened, but I set out for the bazaar to buy hemp. Now as soon as I had left the house, there came, by evil fate impelled, a man who sold tuffle, or fuller's earth, wherewith the poorer sort of women are wont to wash their hair. Fuller's earth, washing your hair. Okay. My wife would fain have bought some, but not a single cowrie or almond had she. Then she took thought and said to herself, "This jar of bran is here to no purpose. I will exchange it for the clay." And he also, the tuffle seller, agreed to this proposal, and went off, taking the jar of bran as the price of the washing earth. How unlucky is that? Twice now. Twice he's been unlucky. Anon I came back with a load of hemp upon my head, and other 5 on the heads of as many porters who accompanied me, and I helped them off with their burthens, and after storing the stuff in a room, I paid and dismissed them. Then I stretched me out upon the floor to take rest a while, and looking towards the corner where once stood the jar of bran, I found it gone. Words fail me, O Prince of True Believers, to describe the tumult of feelings which filled my heart at the sight. I sprang up with all speed, and calling to my wife, inquired of her whither the jar had been carried, and she replied that she had exchanged its contents for a trifle of washing clay. Then cried I aloud, "O wretched, O miserable, what hast thou done? Thou hast ruined me and my children. Thou hast given away great wealth to that clay-selling fellow." Then I told her all that had betided me, of the coming of the 2 friends, and how I had hidden the 190 ashrafis within the bran jar, And she, on hearing this, wept sore and bet her breast and tore her hair, crying, Where now shall I find that clay seller? The white is a stranger. Never before did I see him about this quarter or this street. Then turning to me, she continued, Herein thou hast dealt right foolishly, for that thou didst not tell me of the matter, nor didst place any trust in me, otherwise this mishap would never have happened to us. No, never. And she lamented with loud lamentation, and bitter, whereat I said, Make not such hubbub, nor display such trouble, lest our neighbours overhear thee, and learning of our mishap peradventure, laugh at us and call us fools. It behoveth us to rest content with the will of Almighty Allah. However, the 10 ashrafis, which I had taken from the 200, sufficed me to carry on my trade and to live with more of ease for some short while. But I ever grieved and I marvelled much anent what could be said to Sadi when he should come again, for inasmuch as he believed me not the first time, I was assured in my mind that now he would denounce me aloud as a cheat and a liar. One day of the days the twain, to wit, Saad and Sadi, came strolling towards my house conversing, and as usual arguing about me and my case, and I, seeing them from afar, left off working that I might hide myself, as I could not for very shame come forth and accost them. Seeing this, and not guessing the reason, they entered my dwelling, and saluting me with a salam, asked me how I had fared. I durst not raise my eyes, so abashed and mortified was I, and with bended brow returned the greeting, when they, noting my sorry plight, marvelled, saying, Is all well with thee? Why art thou in this state? Hast thou not made good use of the gold, or hast thou wasted thy wealth in lewd living? Quoth I, O my lords, the story of the Ashrafis is none other than this. When ye departed from me, I went home with the purse of money, and, finding no one was in the house, for all had gone out somewhere, I took out therefrom 10 gold pieces. Then I put the rest together, the purse, within a large earthen jar filled full of bran, which had long stood in one corner of the room, so might the matter be kept privy from my wife and children. But whilst I was in the market buying me some hemp, my wife returned home, and at that moment there came in to her a man which sold fuller's earth for washing hair. She had need thereof withal naught to pay with, so she went out to him and said, I am clean without coin, but I have a quantity of bran. Say me, wilt thou have that in change for thy clay? The man agreed, and accordingly my wife took the earth of him, and gave him in exchange the jar full of bran, which he carried away with him and gained his gate. And ye ask, Wherefore didst thou not confide the matter to thy spouse, and tell her that thou hadst put the money in the jar? I on my side answer that ye gave strict injunctions to keep the money this time with the utmost heed and caution. Methought that stead was the safest wherein to store the gold, and I was loath to trust my wife lest haply she take some coin therefrom and expend it upon her household. O my lords, I am certified of your goodness and graciousness, but poverty and penury are writ in my book of fate. How then can I aspire to possessions and prosperity? Withal, never while I breathe the breath of life shall I be forgetful of this, your generous favour. Quoth Sadi, Meseemeth I have dispersed 400 ashrafis to no purpose in giving them to thee, yet the intent wherewith they were given was that thou shouldst benefit thereby, not that I claim thy praise and thanksgiving. So they twain compassionated and condoled with me in my misfortune, and presently Saad an upright man, and one who had acquaintanced me since many a year, produced a leaden coin which he had picked up from the path and was still carrying in his pocket, and after shewing it to Sadi, said to me, "Seest thou this bit of lead? Oh, careful, Charlie. Take it, and by favour of fate thou shalt find out what blessings it will bring to thee." Sadi, on espying it, laughed aloud and made jest of the matter, and flouting said, "What advantage will there be to Hassan from this mite of lead, and in what way shall he use it?" Saad, handing me the leaden coin, retorted in reply, "Give no heed to whatso Sadi may say, but keep this by thee. Let him laugh an he please. One day haply shall come to pass, inshallah, and it be the will of Almighty Allah, that thou shalt by means thereof become a wealthy man and a magnifico." I took the bit of lead and put it in my pocket, and the twain bade me farewell and went their way. As soon as Saad and Sadi had departed, I went on rope twisting until night came, and when doffing my dress to go to bed, the bit of lead which Saad had given me fell out of my pocket. So I picked it up and set it carelessly in a small niche in the wall. Now that very night so it happened that a fisherman, one of my neighbours, stood in need of a small coin wherewith to buy some twine for mending his dragnet, as he was wont to do during the dark hours, in order that he might catch the fish ere dawn of day, and selling his quarry, buy victuals for himself. Don't you, Mama's desk? And his household. No, bad bird. Honestly. So, as he was accustomed to rise while yet somewhat of night remained, he bade his wife go round about to all the neighbours and throw a copper that he might buy the twine required, and the woman went everywhere, from house to house, but nowhere could she get loan of a farthing, and at last she came home weary and disappointed. My little baby girl. Quoth the fisherman to her, "Hast thou been to Hassan al-Habab?" And quoth he, "Nay, I have not tried at his place. It is the furthest of all the neighbours' houses, and fanciest thou, even had I gone there, I should thence have brought back aught? Off with thee, O laziest of hussies." Oh, massive sneeze, Charlie. What in his eye? Oh, gross. "And good for nothing of baggages," cried the fisherman. "Away with thee this instant. Perchance he hath a copper to lend us." Do you have a copper to lend us, Charlie? Mummy made coins for Papa Legbo out of copper. Yes, she did. Can't get real copper coins anymore, can we? Had to make 'em some. Anyway. Accordingly, the woman, grumbling and muttering, fared forth, and coming to my dwelling, knocked at the door, saying, "Oh, Hassan al-Habab, oh my goodness, my husband is in sore need of a piece wherewith to buy some twine for mending his nets." Minding me of the coin which Saad had given me, and where it had been put away, I shouted out to her, "Have patience, my spouse will go forth to thee and give thee what thou needest." My wife, hearing all this hubbub, woke from sleep, and I told her where to find the bit of money, whereupon she fetched it and gave it to the woman, who joyed with exceeding joy, and said, "Thou and thy husband have shown great kindness to my man, wherefore I promise thee that whatsoever fish he may chance to catch at the first throw of the net shall be thine, and I am assured that my good man, when he shall hear of this, my promise will consent thereto. About to blip off, so we'll continue with part 2, which is only a few